Now we got a real treat. I remember this young lady from when I was a Pathways guide, and when I had the chance to stay in some of her classes, wow, they were phenomenal. Barbara Sanders has been a Toastmasters for 10 years. She enjoys being the Vice President of Public Relations for HCM Metroplex Motivators. Yay. She was a Public Relations Manager for D63 during Toastmasters year 2019 to 2020. This year, she completed her first Pathways woohoo, team collaboration and is currently working on Visionary Communication Path. Barbara is passionate about the educational program that Toastmaster offers. She believes that it helps people achieve the success that they are looking for when they join. I concur. Today, she will speak about the Pathways program because we in D63 want to make certain that everyone is able to achieve their goals and their success is your success is our success. Take it away, Barbara.
Thanks, Bert, for that enjoyable introduction. And fellow Toastmasters, it's an honor to be able to speak for you today. This session is designed to be interactive, just as Tanya's was. So throughout this speech, I'll ask you to raise your virtual hand, um, and then I'll call on you as appropriate. Our district leaders want to help our club leaders achieve their club goals. For that reason, we are focusing on pathways as one of those methods of achieving the goals. Briefly, let me show you. I'll share my screen here, just a second. And okay, so this, I've got way too much on the screen, I believe. Hold on just a second here. Okay, here we go. So for those of you who don't know, when our clubs, we have different goals that we are looking to achieve each year. And they're broken down into four different sections. We have the educational portion, we have our membership of retaining members and gaining new members. We have the training program, which is what we're doing right now. And then we have the administration portion as well. So each of these four goals count as points that we use to add up at the end of the year. And this is what we consider to help our clubs be successful. The reason we're focusing on pathways is the other portions you will meet with your respective club officers. And my recommendation, this is what we do in our club, is at least quarterly, and especially at the beginning of the Toastmasters year right now, you start with the district club um, program with that manual that I just showed you, and you complete a club success plan. And you'll talk about those when we have our breakout sessions in more detail. So I just want to give a high level overview of it. In my experience, so I've been in Toastmasters for 10 years, and we have fine clubs in our district. But then some of our clubs, as we look at the data, we're finding that some of the adoption rates are slow. We have about a 50% adoption rate with our new members. So that means members who have joined within the past 6 months, 50% of them are going on to Toastmasters website and signing on and choosing a path. And our goal is to increase that rate because obviously when someone joins Toastmasters, they want to be able to get the best that it has. And the only way that they can get that is by actually going through the educational program. When I started, I went through several different clubs and really wasn't sure what was happening with Toastmasters. I just saw people would give speeches and they would talk, but it just kind of never really came together until I joined the club that I'm in right now, which is the Metroplex Motivators. And when I went for my visit as a visitor, someone gave a speech and they on the speech, they talked about the goals that they had for the club. And in the end, they had this cheer that they did. And it was, it really touched me because everyone in the club had said, what do we want? When do we want it? And it just kind of turned into this cheer that they did in terms of the goals that they wanted to achieve for that year as a club. And that was the first time it all came together. And I thought, these people want to achieve goals together. And I was right on board. So I started with team collaboration. That was the first path that I completed. And the reason that I started with team collaboration is that I wanted to be able to learn how to just mobilize a team of people to be able to achieve goals. So Tanya spoke about Benjamin Hardy's book, Who, Not How. So my goal with that path was to just learn how to work with others and just to complete different projects and goals together, because when you want to be successful, then you want to pick a goal that is going to be bigger than something that you cannot complete by yourself, something that's going to take other people, a team of people to complete together. And that's how you really make big changes in the world. My current path is visionary communication, and it's to do what I'm doing right now, which is to share my vision. And currently, that vision is to increase the adoption rate of pathways and to just help our club leaders find ways to do that. So, as I mentioned, this session will be interactive. So, I'd just like to start. I've shared my why and my path that I've chosen. So, I'd like to, if everyone or whoever would like to participate, raise your hand and tell me, why did you join Toastmasters? And let's just kind of get back to the basics there. What caused you to join Toastmasters? And we'll start with that. Okay, start with Skip.
That's an easy question to answer. For those of you that don't know me, I've been a Toastmaster coming up on 45 years. I think I'm right. No, 46 years, September of 76. And I've got to admit, I was coerced into it by a man in my Sunday school class at the time who was a member of a Toastmasters club. Told me I ought to try, come and join it, that I had potential as a speaker. I had never heard of Toastmasters. I was just 29 years old at that time. And so I didn't know what he was talking about, but I decided to give it a try. Well, needless to say, for the last nearly 46 years, it has been a key part of my life. It has indeed not only helped me tremendously in terms of communication skills, but also in self-confidence, self-esteem, and just general personal growth. I could go on and on and on, but in the interest of time, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. And we have 4 other hands. So we'll do it just kind of like a table of topics. We'll do this like briefly, 1 minute. So Shatana, why did you join Toastmasters?
Thank you for asking. I joined Toastmasters because I had lost my way and did not know who I was. COVID had taken so much from me. It had silenced me. It had me questioning my overall faculties. Was I smart enough? People didn't understand what I was saying. People were confused when I spoke. I had to find something that would bring me back in, that would make me feel comfortable, and that's my voice. When you speak, if people don't understand you, to me, it's just like spinning around and around and around and going nowhere. So I had to find a way to grab myself and to keep me focused. And joining Metroplex was amazing. I felt comfortable instantly. I felt like I was at home. When I stumbled, they told me I stumbled. But at the same time, They gave me direction. And so many of those in Metroplex seem to have it all together. So I was able to release. I was able to actually speak truth at times. And I felt like this was where I needed to be. So that's why I joined Toastmasters. Thank you.
Thanks, Shatana. And by chance, I've got some cards here, so I'll just kind of hold those up. So in the interest of time, so we'll do like 1 to 2 minutes. So Denise, why did you join Toastmasters?
Thank you. My reason is not quite the same. I always think about there are different learning styles, particularly for children. Well, to me, it's the same thing in communication. If I don't know how to communicate with you, then you're not going to understand my message. And so Toastmasters really works in helping an individual find the right way in order to communicate, whether or not when they look at different learning styles, that's part of it. But my real thrust is to be able to communicate, to be sure that you understand my message and that you can respond appropriately. Even if it's to persuade you, whatever those things are that I'm trying to do, Toastmasters will help you learn how to do it successfully. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris?
Thank you, Barbara. So I joined Toastmasters for the first time, I believe, in 1989, if I remember correctly. So not quite as many years to skip, but quite a few years under my belt. I joined Toastmasters primarily because I have a stutter, and I let my stutter affect me in high school and growing up. And so I joined Toastmasters to break out of my shell and just like force myself to be in speaking, to force myself to speak, basically. So that's why I joined, and I haven't looked back since. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. And then lastly, Blair.
Yes, I was in IT for the first 20 years of my career, and I could type out my thoughts with no problem at all. But actually vocalizing those was more of a challenge. And I mentioned this to my partner. He's like, "Well, there's Toastmasters," and it's like, "Yeah, okay, well, yeah, okay." It's like the first time I've ever listened to him, probably is what he would say. But I joined Toastmasters, and now I can at least make those thoughts come out my mouth instead of just out of my fingers. And it's actually in the past year I've converted my career from IT to HR recruiting. So now I talk all the time, and it's really helped me a lot.
Thanks, Blair. And I can speak to all of those testaments from everyone. I would like to demonstrate how did I prepare for this speech. So when I signed up initially for the spring conference to give this speech, it was one of the longest speeches that I've had. So how did I use Pathways in order to prepare for this speech? What I did was I went on, and I'll share my screen here. I went on and I was able to complete a path in preparation for this speech. So my icebreaker, so as I told my why just a few minutes ago, so I did my icebreaker and explained what caused me to be in the club that I'm in right now and my experience in Toastmasters. Next, I did the second project for evaluation and feedback. And that's where I got into the meat of the speech. And then thirdly, researching and presenting. So my findings and personal experience in Toastmasters. So I was able to complete a path by preparing the speech that I'm giving right now. And the reason I say that is we may find roadblocks when we have members join, because everyone has a different reason. As we just heard, everyone has a different reason for joining Toastmasters. But we want to be able to couple that reason that the person joined Toastmasters with our educational program. So whatever it is that they're doing, there is a way that we can couple it with the educational program. This will help our club achieve our goals in terms of the DCP. It will help the new member achieve their goals in terms of becoming a speaker. So for example, one of the clubs that I was in, a father joined Toastmasters because he wanted to be able to give a speech at his daughter's wedding. So he could use that speech just as I did to complete a path. He can give his icebreaker. He can talk about when his daughter was young and the things that they did. Then he can talk about the second project about as she became an adult. And then the third project of researching and perhaps what he's looking forward to after she's married. And then let's give an example of perhaps we have a professional speaker and they already have a speech that they give and they just want to have a place where they can polish their speech. Again, they can couple that with the educational path and just break it into those small pieces. But just obviously, if they have a professional speech, it may be longer, but they can take portions of that speech and just highlight it and magnify it by completing just those different projects. And that can help that professional speaker look at their speech in different ways, and that will help them develop and grow as a speaker and providing for the customers that they are looking to serve. And again, it helps the club meet their goals as well. And so we can use the educational system. So what I'm getting at here when I say coupling is we have a coordinate system and we use a set of coordinates so we know where we are. It gives us a location. So we know we're in our Toastmasters club. And the second portion of that coordinate is the educational program. So without the usage of the educational program, then the Toastmasters Club simply becomes a social event that everyone goes to and looks forward to seeing one another. And I definitely enjoy seeing the members of my club every week. But I do like to keep it focused on that educational program, knowing that we are headed in a specific direction and we're learning and growing. The educational program helps to fulfill the needs of the members. It keeps the members coming back and it separates them. It separates the club from just being a regular social event that people go to week after week to talk. Now, I'd like to ask our leaders, what path did you choose and why did you choose that path? Does anyone like to share that? Maybe I should step back. Okay, here we go. We've got Wendy. Okay, Wendy, what path did you choose and why?
I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's about speaking humorously. And I chose that path because I always want to choose a path that's going to challenge me. If I just choose the paths that I know a lot about and I can easily go through them, then I'm really not learning anything. I'm not stretching and growing. Now, I chose this path because I personally, despite what Ms. Denise says, I personally think I'm not that funny. And so I think let me put it this way. I think I'm funny, but I can't put across to others my humor and they don't see it. It's always like, I just get blank stares back at me. And so I wanted to do something so I could learn how to be more humorously effective. And it's been good. It's been a real challenge for me. Some of the things that I've considered about when I became, a couple of years ago, I became a lady in Scotland, a Scottish lady. So I talked about that and wore my Scottish crown and stuff and talked about how wonderful it was to be a part of the aristocracy now and that kind of thing. So that's my advice to anybody who does this is to pick a path that's going to help stretch you. You need to stretch forward and grow, and you'll find out how far you've come along in the meantime.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
I'd like to ask a new
I'd
question.
like to ask a new question.
What challenges have
What
we faced
challenges have we
in
faced
pathways? So
in
we've chosen our
pathways?
path,
So we've chosen our
and
path.
has anyone faced
And
any
has anyone
challenges?
faced any
And
challenges?
what were those challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Barbara,
Yes, Skip.
okay, there was some feedback on that. Somebody put it in chat there. I think I understood it though. Your question was what were the challenges that we faced as far as pathways is concerned? A number of different things. First of all, it's something new. And of course, like I said, I've been in Toastmasters since '76, and just the old way was just for me. The old way was just ingrained. And so the challenge of something big and something significant, a significant change is that was very challenging and continues to be in a lot of ways. Another thing was I'll put it in my terms, the lack of maybe a long enough transition period. I know they did allow a transition period there, and it seemed like at the beginning it was enough, but in the end, pathways is such a totally different thing all the way around from what we had. Really, there should have been more of a transition period. And I would say those, for me, those have been the two main things, particularly the latter. The first, I mean, we can all learn to change, but just the having to cope with the fast transition over a relatively short period of time to a totally different thing was challenging to say the least.
Well, if it's all right, Skip, I'd like to ask, are you able to log on to Toastmasters and like pick your path or see your path?
I catch a lot of flack from some of the people in my clubs about that. And I'm a member of 4 clubs, and all 4 of them are trying to encourage me to do better in that. I guess, Barbara, I'm going to have to answer your question. No, not that I haven't tried. My problem with that has been lack of patience. I start into it well meaning, I'm going to do this and that. And then it just kind of gets on my nerves. Patience is not one of my virtues. And then that's kind of the downfall of it right there. So I guess the answer to your question is going to have to be no, but it's not as blunt a no as it may sound.
Yeah. Well, patience isn't a virtue across the board, but I'm sure you have other virtues.
Thanks.
Does anyone else have any challenges that they faced with pathways? And then the next question is, what about in helping members with pathways? Does anyone find that the members are having issues with getting on pathways? Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, like anything, it's like anything new, it's a little intimidating. So, we're meeting in person right now. And so I just bring my laptop and I'll give a new member, a 5-minute crash course. Like, hey, here's how you get in, here's how you select your pathway. And we've had, I'd say 90-95% uptake in registering for a path for recent members. So it's just a little hand holding at the beginning to get the comfort level, and once they've done their icebreaker, they're good to go.
Okay, so the challenge that you faced was getting the members on the pathways, and the way you solved that was to bring a laptop. And so do you come early to the meeting, or do you stay after the meeting?
Both. It's at my place of employment, so it makes it easy to do that.
Okay. And so you find that just by showing them how to do it, that helps them.
Yeah, and probably at least once or twice a year, we do try to do a speech dedicated to pathways within our regular meeting.
Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. And Denise, what about you? What challenges have your members faced?
Primarily, we've done tutorials, which have been very helpful. When we talk about showing them once, and I'm guilty of this, I think I have it, and then I leave, and I can't remember anything about which one I should click on. So we try to do it together. Because we're meeting on Zoom, we can still do that. But it does take practice. And for those that have been in it a while, it took a while for people to say, this is new, let me get on board and do this. Because honestly, I think Pathways is better because it's having you prejudge yourself. Then you do the exercise and then you critique yourself afterwards. Plus, they give you all kinds of examples. It's really a very good learning tool, but it does take longer than the old program if you really want to do it well. But I think it's good.
Cool. Thanks, Denise. And then Shatana, did you have something to share?
I was going to say that what I believe is Trevor and Miss Denise stated were dead on. It can be intimidating. It can seem to be a lot. But what I did like is your explanation to the father that was going to give a speech at his daughter's wedding and how to break down each pathway section. I thought that was phenomenal, and it makes it less intimidating when it's stated that way. So actually, I'm going to be tapping your shoulder for my pathways, but that was a great explanation. And thanks, Denise and Trevor, for stating what you did. Thank you.
And then we have Division D host.
Well, you had to recognize me. That's your downfall. I started Pathways as a Pathways guide. I was halfway through in the old system. I had 20 speeches plus under my belt, and Pathways came out. There wasn't enough time to switch over, but I finished and got my DTM, plus I got halfway through 2 paths before it became full. I'm now starting my 6th path, and it all boils down to 5 words. About anything you want to do in life, you have to have the will to do it. If you want to do it, you will do it. And as a leader, you are setting the example for your people. And if you're not out there showing them, and if you're not out there doing it, you're not representing Pathways correctly. Therefore, I analyzed in my free toast host in our club that there was a gentleman that was a president in another club that hadn't spoken in our club in 19 months, and it was because of Pathways. He was afraid of it. And I started working with him, and he got it. But people won't say anything. You've got to help people. And so therefore, what we do we have 2 meetings a month. One is on Zoom, and one is on Zoom and hybrid. And on the first meeting of the month, I have a thing, and you're going to see this in the newsletter. It's called Pathways Pause. And that's where when people put in questions, I sit and go through Pathways during the meeting, and I record it and I put it up on YouTube for them. And we're going to open that up to everybody in D63 that they can send me their questions. And then for the rest of my life, I'll be answering questions. Thank you for your time and appreciation. I appreciate it.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like really so for some of us, it's a technical issue. Some of us are able to get on and navigate, but then others we're finding it's just that those technicalities. And some of the solutions that we have thought of in addressing this is having perhaps like a quarterly session where members can get on once a quarter and log on with it's kind of like when we had the Pathways guides 2 years ago when we were doing the transition. and then just have a volunteer to get on, and that way everyone's already on their computer, as mentioned by Trevor and some other people. You're already on your computer, and then we just go step by step to log on and to get on Pathways. So it sounds like maybe that's something that we have thought of doing in order to help just district wide and helping our members and leaders help, get them on board. So that's one solution that we've thought of. And Chris, go ahead. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I've got one point. So as much as I dislike the pathways administrator, or what the view of the members' progress, it does, you can check on members' progress right through that through the Basecamp Manager, it's called. You can check members' progress. So if you see a member who's completed a speech, you can double check that they completed in Pathways, and then if you see people who haven't completed it in Pathways, you follow up with them, and you do a one-on-one session with them. That's how I got many of my members to progress last year.
So you looked at their progress, and if you saw that someone was not progressing, then you just reached out and met with that member one-on-one to help them?
Correct, especially if they had completed the speech, and I was there, so I saw them complete speech. But then I would check a week later to make sure that they've completed it in Pathways. And if they hadn't, then I did a one-on-one with them.
Okay, perfect. Okay, go ahead, Teresa.
I just want to throw a shameless plug out there. On August the 20th, there's going to be a Pathways training at the Brentwood Library. So if anyone has any questions or struggling or anything like that, the training is from 2 to 4. Please come on out and bring your laptops. There will be somebody there to help walk you through it. And also my club, Parthenon Toastmasters, we are going to have our own separate training in September. So that's open for invitation to anyone who wants to come join us and learn a little bit more about Pathways.
Okay, great. And one thing you could do, Sonia, is if you can reach out to our PRM and just shoot her an email, she can add it to the newsletter, and that way people can know district-wide as well. And thank you for sharing. So it sounds like we have just addressing those technical issues. What I'd like to go over are some of the things that we do in our club to help engage our members. And so obviously this may or may not help with the technical. Maybe if you really want to like get engaged, you would be willing to overcome those technical challenges and roll up your sleeves and figure out how to take care of it. One thing we've done is implement awards. So I'm showing this first one. It's the Full Circle Award. When we initially implemented it, we just got a circle, which is clear. That's the reason why I have the card behind it. But you see it says Full Circle Award Metroplex Motivators. Later, we upgraded it to a cork. So Full Circle Award. And the idea behind this is if you get 4 full circles in a year, then you'll have a coaster set, and then you can just keep it in your front room on the table, and that way you won't have watermarks. You can put your cup on top of it. So it's a useful type of award. So it makes it fun. What we do with the Full Circle Award, and this is something that I recommend using in the club, is this helps to get people signed up on the agenda, and it simultaneously helps people complete their speeches. So you earn a full circle once you've completed all 7 roles on the agenda. So you've been the invocator, you've given a speech, you've been an evaluator, table topics master, you get the idea. So once you have done all 4 of those, then we mail you out a full circle. If you do 4 of those in a year, what happens then? Then you have a member who has completed a path. So without telling people to complete paths, you have just encouraged them to do so in a fun type of way. We find that this really helps to engage our members. We don't have to every week say, well, no one signed up for a role. Can someone please sign up for a role? Or when the meeting starts, we don't have to say, well, you've done that before. You want to do it again? It's just people know that they want to get the award, they want to get the coaster, then they go through and get a full circle award. To add to that, what we do is a recognition. So the first week of the month, we take our invocation portion and we use that as a time to recognize our members. People love to be recognized. So this is motivation. So it's one part of leadership, which is motivating others. And this is one way that we motivate our members. And I'd just like to show some of those PowerPoint here. Okay. So you'll see if it wants to come up. So member spotlight. So this is one member. She's completed level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And what we did with this is because we are a part way corporate club, part open, we were able to invite our members manager to come and then recognize the member. So she was recognized in front of her leaders. And so we have a happy member, and the manager knows that this person has these skill sets that she's able to bring to the table. We also recognize the anniversary, so the time that someone joins the club. And we like to use that as our coordinate as opposed to the time that the person joined Toastmasters themselves. Although we may use that from time to time, but we usually focus more on when they actually joined our club specifically. And then here is the full circle award, and you'll see along the side everyone is kind of giving their recognition along with as we're acknowledging them. And then this last picture here. Wow. So as they complete one level and everyone knows where they are on their path. Not only that, we recognize we have a quarter circle, half circle, 3/4 circle, and a full circle. So the quarter circle is when you have completed, let's say, maybe 2 rows on the agenda. So then you have a quarter circle. And that way the member knows, okay, well, I've done these rows. Now, instead of doing those rows again, I need to do another row. So it helps to keep everyone doing something different. It keeps them engaged and developing their leadership and speaking skills. Does anyone have any questions about that as far as having a recognition program or anything that they'd like to add to that?
I have a question. Where can you order the coasters at?
That's a good question. Becky, are you on? Are you in? I don't know if she's here. What we can do is we can get that information and then share it. One thing that I thought of, so I've shared that we've thought of like a quarterly session for pathways. Another thing that I've thought of is a care packet for our leaders. And with the care packet, it just includes like the DCP, the handbook, along with the club success worksheet, which is what we would want to be working on right now, is completing that worksheet of how are we going to complete our goals for the year as a club. Which members are going to complete paths and at which level? How are we going to recruit more members to our club? and how we're going to retain our members. So that is, in a nutshell, what I have as far as the Pathways Initiative. I've shared my why. I have shared the different paths that we've picked. We've discussed different roadblocks and some challenges that we faced. What I'll do after this is reach out to clubs specifically. You may find that I'll send you an email. And if you receive an email, I hope that you'll respond. And that way we can help you one-on-one so that we can all achieve our goals in Pathways. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add or share at this time? If not, then I'll pass it back to you, Bert.